Welcome to the Business of Drinks, where we go behind the bottle, interviewing beverage innovators and icons about how they built their businesses.
We take a data-driven approach, analyzing the brands, products, and categories that get customers and consumers excited.
And we cover several drinks categories, from wine, beer, and spirits to non-alcoholic drinks, as well as THC, adaptogen, and functional beverages.
So whether you're working in drinks or just interested in the stories behind your favorite brands, join us each week as we explore how companies are unlocking growth at every stage in the game.
Thanks for joining us, and let's dive in. Hello, BOD crew, and hi, Scott.
Hi, Erica. I'm very excited for today's show.
Yes, so we are going to be talking with Steve Riboli, the CEO of Riboli Family Wines, which owns the Stella Rosa brand. So for people who are unfamiliar with it, Stella Rosa is the #1 import brand and the largest selling brand over $10 in the United States, according to Impact Databank. But amazingly, a lot of people in the industry are unfamiliar with these wines.
Yeah, Stella Rosa is kind of hidden in plain sight. As Steve points out, the brand has been around for over 20 years. And I think of it's like a character actor. If you recognize them, or in this case, their wines, right? But you don't know their name. To the wine enthusiast, you might not be as familiar with Stella Rosa because, and I'm guessing here, these probably aren't what you're particularly looking for when you go to pick up a bottle. These are a line of $10 to $15 Moscato-based, semi-sweet, semi-sparkling wines with natural fruit distillates that add flavor. Most of these wines are very low ABV, around 5%. This isn't a Providence-driven brand, but it's the type of stuff I see family members and friends bring to holidays and parties all the time.
Yeah, Riboli Family Wines, they were pretty under the radar for me until about a year ago when I saw an incredible data point. Stella Rosa's pineapple and chili wine was the #1 best-selling new wine SKU of 2023, according to Nielsen. And that blew my mind for a few reasons. So first of all, spicy wine. I literally had never seen it until that time, and now I've seen several. Secondly, what was this company that I was unfamiliar with? It turns out that Riboli Family Wines is the 11th largest wine marketer in the US. I did not know that. And third, look at the volumes. So in 2023, Stella Rosa grew by 5% to 4.1 million cases.
Wow.
So that its sales trajectory is continuing to grow this year, even as much of the wine category is experiencing slowdowns and declines.
Yeah, most fascinating to me is that a staggering 27%, right? More than a quarter of Stella Rosa's sales in 2023 came from new drinkers entering the wine category for the first time. This is a brand bringing a whole new generation into the fold. As someone who speaks to drinks founders all the time, I rarely encounter brands with such a substantial proportion of sales coming from consumers that weren't consumers before. Stella Rosa is advantageously not having to fight for market share when they themselves are growing the pie. Really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. They really are growing the pie. With Stella Rosa over-indexing for consumers aged 21 to 34, it's clear that they are striking a chord with coveted younger drinkers, millennials, and LDA Gen Zs. And they also over-index for multicultural audiences, which Steve and I discuss in the interview.
And this all makes complete sense to me, right? Erica, in your own research, you've revealed in the past that Gen Z's top decision-making factor when it comes to choosing a drink is flavor. And traditional wine doesn't serve this need very well. It doesn't make flavor explicit, right? If you're a consumer, you've got a puzzle to put together by backing into flavor via appellation or grape variety. Someone needs to explain it. And these characteristics, they're hurdles to the uninitiated. But when one sees Stella Rosa watermelon or ruby rosé grapefruit, there's no friction. They immediately understand what they're buying. And that's incredibly powerful. It might not, be traditional wine orthodoxy, but the sales speak for themselves.
Of course, it's not all puppy dogs and rainbows. There are challenges that come with such rapid growth. So I wanted to know, what does the distribution landscape look like for a brand that's soaring to new heights? So Steve had some interesting insider insights to share on that front.
Yeah, and it might be a surprise, but it's not magic or some secret. When Steve shared that the company likely did over 3,000, maybe 5,000 activations a year, I was completely bowled over, right? This is what, when people say liquid to lips, this is what that means. They've got an army of people making sure to meet the consumers where they are at. They're not only casting out for attention via digital channels, which are very important and have their place, but they are out there in the community and they are a constant presence. And this is important not just for getting the brand out there, but for gathering the feedback necessary to evolve, change, adapt, come out with new flavors.
Yeah, totally important point there. I think after listening to this episode, a lot of people are going to find themselves as new fans of this brand, uh, and the truly unique niche that Stella Rosa has carved out and capitalized on. So grab your glasses and enjoy this insightful conversation with Steve Riboli of Stella Rosa. And now, a word from our sponsor. Is your drinks brand looking to start or expand import and distribution?
Whether you're seeking to enter new markets or you're unhappy with a current distributor and desiring a better fit, you should know about Swig Partners.
Founded by industry experts Eric Siegelbaum and Amy Troutmiller, Swig takes the guesswork and the legwork out of distribution strategy. Swig helps brands and distributors find the right fit for long-term relationships and sales success.
US-based importers and distributors should reach out too. With Swig, they can explore new products for free. And brands, you can get $100 off by mentioning Business of Drinks. Find out more at swigpartners.com/business of drinks. That's swigpartners.com/business of drinks.
Steve, welcome to the Business of Drinks.
Thank you, Erica. And good morning.
Good morning. So, all right, well, we're going to jump right into questions. I have so many questions for you. So, starting at the beginning, Riboli Family Wines now ranks as the 11th largest wine marketer in the US with a volume of 4.5 million cases in 2023, up from 3 million cases in 2019, according to Impact Databank. And it's such a remarkable sort of shift from everything else that we're seeing in the industry. So what I want to hear about first is about the company and its mission.
I don't know. It's we're family owned, and so we make decisions as a very small team. Um, my brother and sister and I have worked together since we were little kids, and we had great mentors in our parents. We're 100-plus-year-old company, and in order to stay and just to survive today, you have to constantly innovate. And it's something that is in part of our DNA is constant innovation and as well as reinvention of ourselves, not just innovation in products, but reinvention in our company, our team, our formula for success. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but it's a process, and we've been fortunate to be able to do that for 5 times in our history. We've been in the hospitality wine business since the 1940s, you could say. The new era, the new days of wine consumers. So we had a really interesting history of how to turn on a wine consumer. And it really started after the Second World War. It's kind of a strange story, but you had all these GIs that were in Europe that tasted wine for the first time during the war. And when they returned, you had this boom of Italian and French restaurants that were open to cater to their foods that they tasted when they were in Europe. And part of that was wine.
Yeah.
And we embarked on a big platform, at least in Southern California, to put our wines in front of people, and people that had never maybe tasted wine before, or were drinking scotch and uh, bourbon, etc., beer. And so we sort of had this statement in our head of conversion. How do we convert? And how did we start converting in the 1940s? And then we saw it again in the 1960s with the big boom of beer. And how do you convert a beer consumer into a wine consumer? Then we went on all the progresses that occurred. I owe a lot to my mom, who was an extreme innovator and who really felt that the consumer's first, but their only way to understand the consumer is to educate them, and educate them sometimes on different settings. Who would have thought wine and cheese parties in the 1960s were the way to go into the wine world? Because that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Um, So fast forward, you could say the 1990s and early 2000s, the big boom of multiculturalism. We've always been a multicultural country and a multicultural state, but there was this plethora of people that first we're not drinking Cabernet and Chardonnay because that's not what they drank at their kitchen tables. That's not what they celebrated with. And the birth of Stella Rosa was born almost 21, 22 years ago. And it was born because of the demand that this consumer said, I don't drink these wines at home, and I'm 30 years old. I don't, yeah, they're all beautiful labels, and there's Napa Valley and Sonoma and France and Italy, really beautiful, gorgeous places. But we don't drink those wines making tamales at Christmas time, or having Easter together. And so we created programs for them. We created very easy to drink things that were serious wines in a serious packaging, very European looking and European with an authentic story, all from Northern Italy, all from Piemonte, all from one town that basically my mom was born right next door. Um, So the authenticity of us is really what is leading Stella Rosa, and it's leading it today. We are about as authentic as you get. Very difficult wine to make, and we're proud that it's all produced in Piemonte, and it's all produced in one, you could say, pocket, which is borders. It's the land of Moscato di Asti, the land of Barbera, and the land of Bracchetto, and two of those are DOCGs.
Yeah.
So you have this these hills, these beautiful hills of Piemonte, and we are a huge purchaser of grapes from these family growers. Over
Mm.
600 supply
Wow.
us for fruit to
Yeah.
make Stella Rosa wines. And so it's about keeping the consumer motivated, keeping the consumer active. We've been able to hold on to this young consumer that started with us. Maybe they were in their early 20s and now in their 40s. They're still very, very part of our culture. And now we are re-educating and entertaining this new group that's 21 years old now, that is saying, what do I want to drink? Do I want to drink? Do I want to drink Manhattans, and do I want to be in a cocktail world? Do I
Mm.
want to drink spritzes or seltzers? What is it that I want to drink? And at the end of the day, we believe that this consumer still wants to be elegant. They want to drink out of a cool 750 ml into a glass. They want to bring gifts to people's homes. Why? Because they're proud immigrants.
Mm.
And when you're a proud immigrant, you kind of know where you or your family came from. And you're probably not going to bring a 12 pack of somebody's XYZ product
Yeah.
to say, happy birthday or, happy new job. I think that there's this, I call it Latin, European, Euro Latin mentality that says, hey, we need to share together with something that is authentic and
Mm.
real, as a story. Uh, and that's really been a big success, not only with the products in themselves, but the big success of our branding model.
Yeah.
Um, and they know us.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's fascinating to me because I was reading an article in the LA Times, and it was talking about how you have such a strong tasting room and DTC business, and it was saying, you walk into the tasting room, and there's a lot of Asian consumers, a lot of Hispanic consumers, and so I was interested to hear more about how is it that you are welcoming these, people from various non-Eurocentric backgrounds into wine? Like, how do you see the sort of progression of getting new consumers to your wines in particular?
well, I think you have to break the bridges down of wine being elitist.
Mm-hmm.
You got to start with that. And you have to say that wine can be served, 7 days a week. It can be served for lunch. It can be served for brunch. It can be served for with chocolate cake
Yeah,
and
over ice.
over ice. And it can be served cold. Big secret of Stella Rosa: every Stella Rosa item is served chilled. We want them served chilled. Most of the Stella Rosas have natural frizzante because they're made in Charmat champagne tanks. So they're fermented must, you could say. And we create these programs that have effervescence but aren't sweet. They're not cloyingly sweet at all. Uh, and then we have sparkling. We have beautiful prosecco. We have beautiful sparkling rosés and beautiful, even black. One of the lead items in America, Stella Black, should be in every cold box in America, in every refrigerator, and in every retailer cold box, because that's how the product is to be consumed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find that we have worked hard to break the barriers down of entry for this consumer base that is extremely loyal, and we're making it fun and easy for them. And they want, they're prideful, and I think that's the other side of it. Um, they want to buy things that have pride. They
Mm.
also want to buy products that are interesting enough, that have a family story, and that are, they can, and all the kids today, all you need is one of this and you're connected to the world.
Yeah.
And they can look up our family story in 2 seconds. Uh, and they know that, hey, this is not a Fortune 500 company, or it's not a conglomerate that's owned by XYZ and it's traded on the stock exchange. No, these are people.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, we've got a lot of practice since the 1940s.
Yeah.
Imagine that. You're talking to a company that, if you looked up the wineries of California in a booklet of the 1950s and 60s, there might only be 10 left, okay, of the
Right.
1950s. And there might have been 600 then. Um, so staying power is, we listen to the customer. We listen. We adapt. we change packaging, we adapt to their needs, and over 80% of our business is to females.
Interesting.
Why? Because I think females are hipper. I think women are making some incredible decisions in the world, and women are following women. And I think women are setting a tone of excellence in education, in style, in how they want to live. Case in point, 40 years ago, I'm in my early 60s. 40 years ago, it was pretty rare that you went and you saw 6 girlfriends at a table at a restaurant having fun by themselves.
Mm.
Today, that's what you see.
Right.
It's why there's just they love life, and our brand Stella Rosa is extremely popular in the female community, and
Yeah.
we cater to this love life environment.
It's interesting. I want to hear more about the product itself. So I know that it's about 5.5% alcohol, the semi-sparkling, semi-sweet Moscato-based wine. And I think people who haven't tried it might be surprised to hear about the high quality of the fruit distillates and the flavorings that are going into these wines. So can you talk about the process of making these wines?
Yeah, I mean, you can grow Moscato anywhere in the world for all intents and purposes. But Moscato d'Asti, that is grown in Piemonte, is grown on these incredible slopes. It's dry farmed. It has natural irrigation. It has incredible acid balance because crop levels are low. They plant a lot of vines per acre, but the amount of fruit per vine is exceptionally low. And what that does is it creates this intensity of character, of muscat character, with this beautiful pH acid balance. So we start with crushing Moscato grapes or Bracchetto grapes. That is you could say, a red version of Moscato. We crush Barbera because of its incredible berry-like intensity. And we hold those as juice, as mousse, even Barbera. We almost like carbonic maceration with Barbera, but we hold it as juice. And we then start fermentations in ultra modern stainless steel winery. Ultra modern, one of the most modern wineries, frankly, in Europe. In order to hold gas and pressure on a very slow fermentation until we reach this 5.5% alcohol, and then we arrest the fermentation through a series of cross-flow filtrations and modern filtrations that don't rob the flavor. They just stop, they take the yeast away. We then add distillates. And a distillate is another way of saying we're adding natural fruit in a liquid form, that we have trapped the essence of the fruit, almost like Chanel No. 5 perfume. We've trapped the essence, and we cook the fruit. Someone asked me years ago, well, how does that work? And I said, well, it's sort of like you're making spaghetti sauce at home, and you have the lid on the spaghetti sauce, and it's been boiling for an hour or two, and you want to smell it. So you open the lid, and this aroma that comes up to hit you is this aroma of this mixture of tomatoes and basil and all of your cool ingredients, and it's vapor. And if you notice on the bottom of the lid, as you pull it up, it has this, you've trapped this liquid and it's clear. I said, it's kind of like that. Imagine 50,000 pounds of blueberries being made like spaghetti sauce and cooked, and we trap the vapor in a distilled format where we're able to retain incredible, pure, 100% natural essence, tastes like fruit, it smells intense,
Mm.
and we use that in small dosages within our blends. And all of our blends are a mixture of multiple fruit flavors. So even though it might have blackberry on the label, it could be a little bit of cassis and a little bit. It's our
Yeah,
magic. It's our secret sauces.
sure.
And there's different distillates that are in the world. There's low price distillates that are used to make sodas and seltzers. And then there's the Bentley pricing that we use, and they come from Germany. And we have been doing this since day one.
Wow. Yeah.
They're very, very expensive, extremely expensive, because we're using 100% natural fruit. And someone says, well, what do you do with all this fruit after you've cooked it? And I said, well, it's used for it goes to animals, for cows.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's cooked fruit. So it's all, nothing goes to waste.
Wow. Yeah.
But and then we bottle these cold. We bottle these in very high pressure lines, high pressure bottling lines, all under ultra microbe filtration and microbe sterilization. We do this for whites. We do this for reds, like black, and a very popular one we have called rosso, and another popular one that we call just red, which is red fruits.
Mm.
And all of these fruit distillates of ours aren't just one. It could be a combination of 6, 10, 12 different distillates that go into our blends per line, per
Yeah.
item. That's why it's so hard to copy Stella Rosa. We've been fortunate to have a consumer that loves these lighter style wines that we make. They're
Hmm.
elegant, but they're still light in style. They can serve them over ice.
Yeah.
Why not? Who
Yeah.
said you can't serve wine over ice? I mean, I'm not sure who thought of that, but who said you can't serve it? And when it's 105 degrees in Phoenix, I've been out there, and sometimes it's pretty hard to drink a glass of Cabernet.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds pretty good to me.
It
Uh,
sounds pretty good.
yeah, and so let's talk a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning of Stella Rosa. Can you talk about how the brand was developed and maybe some of the challenges that you faced in the initial stages?
Erica, we got so lucky.
No challenges.
I, I vividly remember we launched it in our tasting room in Los Angeles first, and it was a container of 1,000 cases of Stella Rosa, so a red wine served chilled with bubbles. And we looked at each other. It had come in, and my father and I and my brother, and we looked at each other, and my dad said something just very profound. He said, well, boys, there's really only one way that our customers are going to understand this, and we're going to have to just pour it and let them taste it and taste it and taste it. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And it became a rocket of a success.
Yeah.
From week one. It was in a really cool Italian bottle, Italian glass with a crest on it. It had elegance to it. It had nothing like anything that was really been put out in California, and it was about like $11-12. So it wasn't inexpensive, but it wasn't crazy expensive. And
Hmm.
it started with that. And then we brought in a Moscato, so Rosso, and then a Moscato. And then over the next 10 or 15 years, we started having demand for these fruit flavors because we saw these generations that were, I don't know, I was inspired one day going to the grocery store and I said, how come there are 10 brands of yogurt in front of me with 15 different fruits in them, combos? Why?
Yeah.
And I think the why became pretty apparent. Consumers want diversity. They want to
Mm.
try different things. They don't eat always strawberry yogurt. And so we used the yogurt model, and we began introducing many different flavors. And our consumers today, that's how they buy Stella Rosa. They
Uh-huh.
don't just buy one. Many brands, great brands in America, they might have 4 or 5 SKUs. Well, the consumer gravitates to that one SKU, might be 75% of the time.
Hmm.
Now, our brand doesn't behave that way. It is a um, yogurt style. I'm going to get two
Yeah.
of those and one of those and one of those, and that's how the consumer buys us. So we've had this fortune of being able to develop and grow products.
Hmm.
We introduced a spicy series a couple years ago. Imagine
Yeah.
wine,
Totally innovative new flavors.
white wine, Moscato, Diasti, with Calabrian chili. Because folks in Nicaragua and Guatemala and the Caribbean, uh, their meals all have spice in them. And they were raised Southeast Asia. They were raised with these spicy meals,
Yeah.
and they're really rockets right now. We're really proud of them, and they're fun to drink.
Yeah.
They're really,
Yeah.
they're really flavorful. And you could put tahine. Who would have thought
Hmm.
we would be talking about tahine 20 years ago? But you put a rim of tahine on Stella Rosa pineapple chili with ice cubes. Wow, you have a really, really wonderful cocktail. That's
I know.
simple.
I think that really that is the appeal. And like, I keep on saying in a lot of the presentations that I've given that the brilliance of Stella Rosa to me is that it really leverages the popularity of cocktails. And what is the most popular cocktail right now? Well, it's the margarita. And this is essentially like a riff on a spicy margarita, but at
It
a
is.
really low ABV. And so that I think is like so much of the appeal. And I'm curious to know, how did that particular product, the number one best selling pineapple and chili flavor, how did that come to be?
I saw something at a beach in Italy. I saw them make a concoction, like a spritz, and instead of putting orange or a lemon wedge, they put a Calabrian chili inside. And
Mm.
I said, "What are you doing?" They said, "Oh, this is what this young kids want. They want spicy, um, kind of cool, unique cocktails, but low ABV
Yeah.
because they're going to be drinking on the beach all day." So that was inspirational for me. And
Hmm.
so we take a lot of inspiration on traveling. I love to go to Europe a lot, and I'm there very often because of the brands. But I also see what Europeans are drinking, and I do believe that what occurs in Europe will come to America within 4 or 5 years. Um, we saw the boom of spritzes. Let's call it
Hmm.
Aperol spritz. And so this year we introduced a beautiful brand. I'll have to get you some samples to try. It's a ready to serve spritz that we call Spritz del Conte. Cool packaging, spirit bottle, a ready to serve with Glera Prosecco and our own version of either limoncello spritz, orange spritz, classic orange. It also comes in non-alcoholic. Imagine
Mm,
that.
interesting.
So lots of mocktail restaurants are going crazy over our spritzes because they're just easy to make. And when you sometimes go and get a margarita or a Manhattan or even a spritz cocktail, the first one tastes different than the second one.
Hmm.
It depends on if the bartender pours a little too much of this or a little too much of that. So we've taken the guesswork out with these very cool ready to serves. And we're pretty excited about and it's all going back to how do we speak to the 20-year-old?
Right. Right.
What's the 20-year-old want today?
Hmm.
And yeah, yes, we're in the fine wine business. Don't get me wrong. We have a couple thousand acres in Paso Robles and in Monterey and in the Santa Lucia Highlands and a beautiful ranch in Rutherford, which is the core sort of our existence of our company.
Hmm.
But we see that as being the tag along to educating this consumer to Riboli. And once they're hooked on Riboli as brands,
Hmm.
Riboli, whether it's Stella Rosa or Riboli at Spritz del Conte or some of the other Riboli brands, they become part of our family. And
Interesting. Yeah.
as their palates mature, grow, uh, then we get them on with San Simeon, Pinot Noir, and Madalena Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's
Uh-huh.
an interesting funnel.
It's fascinating because I've debated this with several people in the wine industry. And my thought on it is that, Stella Rosa is an amazing gateway because it leverages those flavors that people are already familiar with. But then that's opening the door to wine as a beverage and opening the door to a journey so that your palate generally will evolve over time. And maybe the wine that you go to from Stella Rosa, the next wine is a Sauvignon Blanc. And then maybe you continue down the road into some reds and some bigger reds. What's your thought? Do you believe that, and do you have, data that suggests that your consumers, they start out with Stella Rosa and then go on that journey?
I think it comes, yes, it's the consumer goes on the journey, but the gatekeeper is the retailer who is then becomes the spokesperson in call it the independent retail store that says, I've been selling Stella Rosa to you for a long time. This brand, I'll get you a bottle. Let's see. This and they have a relationship with the buyer. The retailer and the consumer have a relationship. And the person says, well, I love Stella Rosa, but I'm going over to my boyfriend's friend's house tonight and I'm looking for a really cool bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And they like big reds. And all of a sudden, but you know what? This family makes this as well. This is San Simeon Stormwatch.
Hmm.
It's $75 a bottle, 90 plus 2, 3, 4 point wine spectator. They're going to love it. And all of a sudden, you have um, this association. It's an association of, it's almost like an automobile. Okay. It's sort of like there's Audi, there's Volkswagen, and there's Porsche. And go, you become part of their movement.
Hmm.
You start with a Volkswagen and then you get into an Audi and then you progress into a Porsche. And I'm a big believer that as long as the parent companies hold their standards and their mission statements and they explain themselves as this is who we are. And yeah, sometimes it's complicated to explain that we can make, a Bordeaux blend and we can also make Brachetto from Piemonte. But once you get these independent gatekeepers to really dig the story, they're our best salespeople.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think, I talk to a lot of people in the industry who are resistant to trying flavored wines. Like, they don't necessarily realize that this can be a good onboard to bring people on the wine journey. So it's interesting and great to hear that you are actually seeing people transition from, one of your brands, which is more of like that sort of gateway brand, into uh, the journey of wine into a variety of different other expressions. I'm curious to know, thinking about Stella Rosa and as kind of a case study for others to learn from, it brought this new, like, totally new to world innovation. Like, there wasn't a lot of other flavored wines, certainly of this caliber at the time. What were some of the strategies that helped it scale so quickly?
Well, the first thing is you see what young kids drink at the when you go to the grocery store and you see all the flavors of juices. Start with that. Look at what a mom and dad are buying their 6 and 7 year olds. Okay. Then you say, look at the water world, and you look at the 40-foot sections of water aisles and all of these flavors. So the consumer understands flavors. They love flavors. The hardest thing for wine is I think many wineries have tried to make either copies of Stella Rosa or lower priced versions of Stella Rosa, but they're too they don't have the balance. They're
Mhm.
they're they're sometimes too thick, and that's not what this consumer wants. They want light, effervescent, fun. Uh, so they're hard to make. They're incredibly
Mhm.
hard to make. I mean, if they were so easy to make, many other people would be making them. They're very difficult, and it really starts with this fruit source.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, uh, I had a retailer jokingly says, "Oh, Stella Rosa, it comes from Piemonte." And I said, "Yeah, it comes from Santo Stefano Belbo, and about 3 miles that way is Angelo Gaia."
Oh, wow.
And you go, they sort of look at you like, okay, well, how does all, how can that work? And I said, well, it works because these are very old wine producing zones. And just because and where they're at, they can't just pick grapes up and plant something else there
Mhm.
like we can in America. We can't have like all these different flavors. Moscato comes from, you grow Moscato there.
Yeah.
And Nebbiolo, you grow Nebbiolo. And Barbera, you grow Barbera. And it's very, very difficult to make the switches. So we've been fortunate to be able to have these 600 growers that work with us during harvest and are bringing us just, exceptional products, exceptional fruit. So it's making Stella Rosa is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Maintaining Stella Rosa's appeal is what we strive for. Always being innovative, speaking authentically to our consumers, um, to letting them know that, you know what, you don't have to like wine, but you can love Stella Rosa.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have probably been in wine dinners where, they didn't know who I was. And all of a sudden I'm with I call them higher level wine growers, and they're saying, oh, that's Stella Rosa. They're just poo pooing that. And I stay quiet. And then when somebody at the table says, Steve, aren't you part of that? And I said, yeah, I am. And I remember one winery years and years ago saying, well, that's not real wine. And I said, you have never been to Piemonte. It's obvious. Okay. I mean, that was my only answer.
Uh-huh.
You've never walked the hills of Bruno and the hills of, Castelvecchio and the hills of, Santo Stefano Belbo on the top. You have never been there. You have
Yeah.
no idea when you say those are not real wines. This is the land that has been making pretty damn real wine for a lot of years. And so it's an education also to retailers. And we've done a good job
Yeah.
with that.
I was going to ask about that. I mean, you mentioned that tasting rooms were so important in the early days as a way to introduce consumers to these products. But then when we talk about scaling, I think there must be a real retailer education as you're, getting these, and also a distributor education, getting these products into wide adoption across the US. Can you talk me through what that journey has been like?
100%. We do a tremendous amount of activations around the US for Stella Rosa. If I say that we do 3,000 a year, we probably do 5,000 a year. Tastings, activations, events, concerts, music festivals, balloon festivals, you name it, airplanes, boats, we're there. Because we have to put Stella Rosa in people's mouths that might not like wine.
Mm.
And remember, Stella Rosa it's already been deemed. We're picking up 17% new people a year that are coming off of spritz, of
Yeah.
seltzers. Because at some point, not knocking seltzers are delicious. But at some point, we all tend to graduate.
Uh-huh.
We graduate. And I think that's the cool thing is when you're talking to somebody who's 23 years old who really doesn't know wine because they might not be multicultural. They may be from the middle of America where they drank sweet tea and milk and soda. And seltzer was the next step. They didn't drink beer. They went from beer. They just drank seltzer. And to say, well, here's something really refreshing in a bottle that you can be proud to take over to someone's house. Poof, light bulbs go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I think that the retailers have been big proponent, big helpers of ours. Our distributor partners, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
We are with some beautiful retailers across the country, big armies of men and women that are proponents of our brands. They know how well our brands do. And you all, as a salesperson, you kind of like to sell when something's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they love selling our brands, and we're very thankful of the retailer and the distributor partners we have out there that have been big supporters of ours. The on-premise, we talk about the leading drinks that are sold in the on-premise. Think about, you mentioned, tequila, Manhattans, or margaritas, Manhattans, old fashions, coffee espresso. There's one thing all of those have in common.
Which is?
They're sweet.
This is true. This is true.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
If you look at all of the top 10 cocktails, with the exception of a dry martini, okay, let's put that out as the exception, they're sweet. America has a sweet tooth.
That is true. And how do you find the adoption? Do you find that a lot of on-premise accounts are using the products either by themselves or in cocktails?
Well, I think they're using them by themselves. And what we're seeing now is this evolution to the new Spritz Del Conte brand as
Mm.
being this transition and it's wine based, transition from going from a cocktail to a different kind of cocktail that is very Euro centric, classic, orange and classic lemon spritzes. And what we're finding is this customer now loves bubbles and
Uh-huh.
they love something in a glass that's cold with ice. So hence Stella Rosa is next.
Yeah.
It's fizzy, poured over ice. Why not? No rules.
Hmm.
And so it's pretty fantastic to see this. And we're constantly thinking. We're constantly thinking of what's next and what are we going to do next in the next 5 years as this family has long range vision plans of evolution.
And what would you say are the most effective marketing activations or campaigns that have worked so well for Stella Rosa?
Well, we might have been one of the first brands to start with outdoor marketing like billboards in a heavy way in the wine sector. And we did. And, when there was economic crises in 2008, 2009, uh, we were buying billboards all across America because the, the banks weren't on them and the auto companies weren't on them and nobody was on them. So real estate companies weren't on them. So we went big and we took a risk. So we started with billboards, and from billboards it went to marketing in airports, because as
Hmm.
people are traveling to and from their homes and they're visiting their friends and families, we're a great reminder. Today it's social media as well. Huge following in social media of all the platforms
Hmm.
that are there. I don't even know. I couldn't even give you they explain them to me. I get it, but I don't even use them, but I do get it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
marketing on those channels for sure.
Marketing on those channels. And I think that's going to be a big boom for brands like Stella Rosa.
Yeah.
And, and as America is growing into a larger and larger multicultural presence, Stella Rosa is also growing along with them. And also the lower ABV. You know, I think we as a consumer and as a country, we talk a lot about folks that aren't drinking anymore, or they're zebra drinking, or
Hmm.
they're changing their drinking patterns. What we have seen is the beauty of Stella Rosa is that we are able to retain that customer a long time
Hmm.
because of the low ABV. It's not a negative.
And I see that Stella Rosa makes several different non-alcoholic wines. How are those selling?
They're great. They're doing exceptionally well. I think the retailers sometimes don't know where to put them is the problem,
Yeah.
because it's like, well, where do you put a non-alcoholic wine? But the beauty of our non-alcoholics is they're made in Piemonte. They're made in the same styles that we make our mutes. They're super clean, and I guess that's a great way to say it. They're clean. They're fresh. They're natural distillates. They're very good.
Hmm.
And I'll have to get you some.
No, I would love to try them. And what about cans? How are those performing? I see that there's at least a couple Stella Rosa varieties in cans now.
Yep, cans are doing well. They're an occasion. They're
Uh-huh.
going to the beach and to the desert and the mountains where you have to, you don't want to carry glass and you want to pack your trash out easily. They have a purpose,
Yeah.
and I think that the can world is fine, but Stella Rosa glass is where it was built, with this beautiful cartouche bottle, and it just it has it's almost like women's purses, okay?
Uh-huh.
Women's purses that have, you can tell when it's Louis Vuitton, and you can tell when it's Ferragamo, and you can just tell just by looking at it. And that's sort of the Stella Rosa bottle. You just
Mhm.
know it.
Yeah.
And we believe in maintaining that elegance and in making sure that we're constantly growing that elegance in all of our packaging.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious to hear a little bit about the brandy. I understand that Stella Rosa recently launched a brandy.
We did. We launched a flavored brandy. So, fruit from Piemonte, uh, primarily Trebbiano, that grows on the lower areas of Piemonte. Uh, and we use our distillate formulas, and we created brandies that have these beautiful fruit characteristics that are not sweet. They're not sweet like you think of as fruit brandy of, call it, the 1960s or 70s.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, we have butter toffee. As a
Oh,
kid,
wow.
eating
Yeah.
Werther's candy.
Yeah.
Well, we have a brandy that tastes like, you pour that over on the rocks, and you're thinking, I remember this when I was a kid.
Oh,
This
fun. Yeah.
flavor,
Yeah.
and they're really tasty. We have creams coming out as well. The interesting thing when I visit Piemonte is I always say, well, what's in Piemonte that is really cool that I can, because, it's our culture, it's my DNA. What is in Piemonte that's amazingly cool that people around the world know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's another little small company that's in Piemonte that has grown besides, in one part of Alba, right next to us. They have hazelnuts, and it's a little company called Ferrero Rocher, and
Oh, yeah.
they make a product called Nutella, and delicious. So we have these creams that are outstanding, and we have a chocolate hazelnut in honor of our neighborhood, in
Nice.
honor of the hazelnuts and the chocolate that grows in the area, the cocoa and the hazelnuts that were blended to make, these iconic products. So we have these beautiful chocolate hazelnut creams coming out. We'll have a pistachio
Hmm.
and a salted caramel.
Oh.
And so all of these are launching now because the young generation wants easy things to pour over ice,
Mm. Yeah. It's like like a prepared cocktail, just
like a
ready to go.
cocktail.
Pour it right out. You don't need to add any
No,
sugar
no,
to make like an old fashioned type thing. It's just like ready to go.
it's ready to
No,
go.
it's interesting because it really occurs to me that all of these products are just unified by this theme of joy, enjoyment. Like they're just, fun to drink and delicious. What is that? Would you say that's like a fair characterization of the ethos here?
Our first, you could say, uh, action trademark that we created almost 20 years ago when we created Stella Rosa was celebrate good times. And we've never lost sight of the celebratory, I call it celebratory mood of this brand.
Yeah.
When the times are good, you want to celebrate. When the times are bad, you still want to celebrate because
Right.
you have to. We can't live in, we can't all go down into rabbit holes and hide. There has to be, as people, we must socialize and celebrate together. So celebration and celebrate good times has always been the ethos of our company and the ethos of this brand. And I think it's what keeps me up at night, and it's what makes me go during the day, is what are we going to do next
Yeah.
as we propel this very, very, very unique brand in America.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know, just because it sounds like it's so important for Stella Rosa to be focused on the latest innovations and trends that are happening within the industry and being able to capture those and produce products uh, relatively quickly to respond to those changes. What does the product development process look like?
Well, we have a huge team in Italy. We have not only mixology, distillate, we have masters of distillates, masters of distillation that are part of our team. We have uh, 9 enologists. We have think tanks of data think tanks of what is happening in Europe.
Mm.
I pay close attention to Europe. I pay close attention to America, but I pay very close attention to Europe. And with this, we brainstorm, and our goal is to have a vision, put a creation together, put our heart into it, and launch within 1 year from start
Mm.
to finish to launch. So I tax our teams daily of what are we going to do? What can we do? And what does this consumer want?
Yeah.
Um, and and again, we still farm 2,000 acres of fruit, on the west side of Paso Robles and gorgeous high elevation Santa Lucia Highland. We farm a lot of these gorgeous areas. And I guess if I was just living there the whole time, I would say, okay, well, what other Rhone white or Rhone red, or what else could we do with what we have in our vegetable garden, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's more limiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So working in Europe has given our family the ability to fly
Totally.
differently.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say are the biggest challenges for the wine industry right now? And how is Riboli Family Wines preparing for those?
Without a doubt, Erica, the biggest challenge is to make certain that statements that are either made by the World Health Organization are not just these blanket statements that are almost atomic in
Mm.
nature. Um, those are dangerous, and we have to be very as an industry. We must be always speaking about the health benefits of a balanced lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whether that's balance in what we eat, balance in what we drink, balanced in our exercise, balance lifestyle.
Yeah.
And this is not the time for the U.S. wine industry to hide, nor is it the time for anyone in our industry to say, "Oh, that's all going to pass on its own like a little cloud." No, I think we have to speak about it, and it's important. And I think that to me is very, very key.
Yeah.
Um, we also have to keep reaching out for new customers that might be that may have never had wine at home ever, and show them some fun ways to enjoy wine.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, all right. So, final question. A drinks entrepreneur asks you for a recommendation. This could be a book or a movie or a person to follow on LinkedIn. Who or what do you recommend to provide the greatest insights?
I'm not going to say who or what. I'm going to say where.
Sure thing.
Okay. I'm going to say where. It is worth everyone's interest that is really into our industry to park themselves on a beach somewhere in Italy in the summer, whether it's in the south, whether it's Positano, or it's on the Adriatic, or in Puglia, or in France in Nice, park themselves and just watch what people eat and drink.
Yeah.
But not just spend an hour or two. I'm speaking of spend 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Because I think they'll be very surprised at the consumer and how the consumer is, for certain, eating less. Maybe 2 meals a day, maybe. And they are socializing with something in their hand, and it usually has color in it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually. Fish, which has always been a big thing in Europe, is even bigger today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a white wine. Giant. White wine. So it's what I do. And that's my little secret.
Yeah.
Is I go with my family, we park ourselves, we become immersed in the culture. We go to the little grocery stores, we go to the little restaurants, we go and have our picnics, we go and out to dinner, we go and see what people do. And you just have to look and ask questions.
Yeah. A great place to find trends. Well, I think a lot of people will be so interested in taking you up on that recommendation.
And it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, there's nowhere I'd rather be. So with
It's
that,
fun.
yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on the Business of Drink, Steve.
Thank you, Erica. It's our pleasure.